All right, so I am trying to clean up my kitchen today because it's a bit of a mess and it needs to be cleaned. I also need to do laundry, which means you guys might get another sequel to my epic laundry videos, which I know you all love. And then after the sequel to the epic laundry video, I really need to make a March video, update my planning for my planner for March. Oh, you know what? I cleaned out my fridge and I didn't actually throw away the gross stuff that I left on my table. So let's go ahead and get that out of here because nobody wants gross stuff on their table all day, right? Hey, there's an Amazon package for me. I wonder what it is. I forget that they deliver on Saturdays now and on Sundays. Delivery times have just skyrocketed since the entire world has moved to online shopping. I have a strong feeling I know what this package is going to be. I got paid this week and I bought an insane amount of music, and of all the stuff I bought on Amazon, only one of which was a CD, and I don't think the other things I ordered will fit in a package this small. So I have a strong feeling I know what it is. It is, yes, the Young Gravy CD. Marvelous. Young Gravy is my guilty pleasure musician in that he represents everything that I generally hate about music, and for one reason or another, I still enjoy his music. And so, like, for example, I do not like sampling in music, and he samples rather frequently, and of songs that, like, have meaning to me, because that's the other thing. Like, it's one thing if you sample a song that I don't really care about, but when you sample a song that I have feelings for, then like I tend to get upset and in a mood about that. But like this dude will sample songs that I love and I won't even care because it's Young Gravy. Has vulgar content that is excessively swearing and all of these things, and I don't care because it's Young Gravy, which is like, that's another personal stance that I've made about modern music. Like, I hate that artists feel the need to curse in their music to add quote unquote value to their lyrics when, like, I don't feel like cussing automatically adds value to your content. It can add value to your content, but it doesn't guarantee that your content is valuable. But I feel like as a general audience, people are more accepting of cursing in music, or more or less upset about it because it feels like edgy. And they're like, ooh, this song is edgy because they're dropping F-bombs and stuff. I was like, yeah, but like, if you're saying the same crap every 20 minutes, what does it matter if you're saying the F word or if you're saying pillows? It doesn't matter. It's still a repetitive, lyrically boring song, and we should not promote these. But something about Young Gravy's music, despite the fact that it ticks every box and is everything that I hate about modern music, I still enjoy it. And I think a large portion of that is because it's just genuinely fun. Like, I find it to be fun, and I feel like he's just generally having fun with the music that he makes. And I feel like that comes through in the content. You just see it and you're like, yeah, he's just having a good old time here being Young Gravy. And so he came out with a CD, and little old me went out and bought it. And one of these days I'm gonna fire that bad boy up and I'm gonna listen to it. And like, something that only a CD nerd like me would get excited about is the fact that it's actually in a jewel case. most people release these garbage CDs in these paper cases that just drive me up the wall and annoy the ever-living crap out of me. But he actually gave me a jewel case. So thank you, Young Gravy, for releasing your CD in a jewel case. He also just released a new song with Jesse McCartney, which I was honestly pretty excited for. I really enjoy Jesse McCartney's music. And maybe that's purely nostalgia talking. Nostalgia is a powerful, powerful tool that can do a lot of things, I think, for people. And I feel like I like a lot of his music just because it's nostalgic for me. But like anytime Beautiful Soul comes on, like I lose my mind. And I remember when Young Gravy announced that he was doing a song, and I don't think he initially announced that the song was going to be with Jesse McCartney. I think he just announced that he was doing a new song. And I was like, cool, new Young Gravy song. I'm all over that, you know? And then at some point in time, he announced that he was, I think he just posted a picture of him and Jesse McCartney together, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jesse McCartney that he's going to make a new song with. So I was really thrilled about that. That just dropped March 1st, yesterday, and like it was fine. It wasn't like the best song I've ever heard. Definitely wasn't like the best Young Gravy song, and definitely wasn't the best Jesse McCartney song either. It's hard because I feel like I only like Jesse McCartney's music because it's nostalgic at this point, which means anything new he's going to make I'm not going to like because it's not nostalgic. And so he's kind of doomed to fail, but like Young Gravy is at least fresh and exciting, and so maybe he can add a fresh and exciting element to Jesse McCartney, but I don't think that's what happened. It just ultimately fell flat for me. I did not think that it was overly entertaining one way or another. And so that's just the way it is, though. And that's the world that I live in as somebody who buys CDs. Like, not every album you're going to buy is going to be crammed full with jams. Not every song on every album is going to be the greatest song that you've ever heard. And that's just part of the game, and I honestly enjoy it, because sometimes I'll buy an album and there'll be some random song on there that I've never heard of that I like more than the song I bought it for. And that's one heck of a feeling. And so it's all just, it's a big exciting thrill for me to do that kind of stuff. And like, I feel like everybody has something that is like that for them. Obviously, it's not CDs for everyone. It's not even DVDs for everyone, though I do know a lot of people who do still buy and collect DVDs. But that also could be because of the circle that I find myself in. But yeah, honestly, I've already heard all of the songs on this Young Gravy CD, but I'm still excited to actually hear the CD. I do not buy very much rap and hip hop because I have like a zero tolerance for the N-word, and I don't think that very many people make like edited versions of their music anymore. Back when like I was younger and buying music, that was a whole thing. Like there would be legitimately two copies of a CD. It would be the clean copy and it would be the dirty copy. And like if you bought music at Walmart, all Walmart carried was clean music. And so if you bought a CD at Walmart, you knew you were getting the clean copy. And I don't want to sound like I'm some saint or something who never cusses or whatever. It's just I feel like as a artist, like you shouldn't have to use that kind of language just for your art to stick out. Like, if your art doesn't stick out because it's artistic and it sticks out because it's vulgar, then it's sticking out for the wrong reason. And so that is always kind of been my stance. And it's kind of the same concept, I guess, with like auto-tune. Obviously, like, auto-tune isn't like inherently a bad thing, and I think it's fine when artists use auto-tune and they're very plain about the fact that they use auto-tune. Like T-Pain, for example, used auto-tune back in the day. He was one of the prime players for that program, but he did it in an obvious manner. Like, there was no question that that guy was using auto-tune. You couldn't sit here and be like, oh, did he auto-correct himself but do it ever so subtly that you don't really notice it? Or did he auto-correct himself so aggressively that he sounded like a robot? He did it so aggressively that he sounded like a robot. And that became like his style. And it's kind of ironic now because he's fighting to get away from that and like to be like, I can really sing, everybody. I can sing. And I remember he went on The Masked Singer. I think he was the winner the first year, in fact. And it was a big deal because the whole internet like lost their mind. They're like, oh my gosh, T-Pain can actually sing. And like, it's not like he's some like amazing singer. Like, sure, the guy can sing. Like, I refused to believe it until I actually saw him singing, because I was like, okay, this Masked Singer show, like, the dude's singing with a giant costume on. That could literally be anyone under that costume singing. And it could be pre-recorded, it could be any number of things. So until I actually see this guy performing live, I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that he can just sing really well. And he did this cover show recently where he covered, like, I don't know, I feel like it was like 40 some odd songs. It was a stupidly long set list. It was like an hour, well over an hour and a half show, and he covered songs that like weren't even in his genre. I know he did like his own take on War Pigs, and they got Ozzy Osbourne to say some great stuff about his cover of War Pigs. And it's just weird. It's like, why is the whole world all of a sudden trying to prove that T-Pain can sing? Like, why is this something we care about all of a sudden? And so at any rate, that was like the big thing. But like, I didn't mind T-Pain using auto-tune because it was plain that he was using auto-tune. And I think it's the same reason why I'm okay with Young Gravy being vulgar, because like, he's not trying to be vulgar and like pretend like he's not vulgar. Like, every lyric he has is disgusting, and it's just fun, and it doesn't even matter what it is. And I think that's why I can enjoy it, is because he's just having fun with it. And so, and it's probably like a bit of a release for me too, for someone who doesn't listen to that sort of music very frequently, if at all ever, to have that outlet. It's nice. And so I probably don't realize how much that plays into it, but it most certainly does. But again, I had no idea that it was a jewel case CD, and I will say this until they take me off of YouTube, but thank goodness to anyone out there in this world right now who is still making jewel cased CDs. Some of these paper CDs, which are incredibly popular these days, are just a hair taller than the average CD, which means that they don't fit in this awesome CD shelf that I have built. And if they don't fit in the awesome CD shelf, then I have to find alternate CD storage when my CD shelf isn't even nearly full, which is awesome because I want to have room to grow. Like, nothing is more depressing than, like, if you're a collector, I'm sure you'll understand, but nothing is more depressing than creating a shelf to house your collection only for it to have like no room for growth. Like, I have experienced that many a times where like I'm like, oh boy, I got this new shelf to grow my collection in, and then when I put my collection in, I'm like, oh, actually I can't fit all my music in here. So that was a bust. So it was incredible when I was able to design something and have it built out, and it allowed me plenty enough space for all of my music and then some. Now my pop shelf is gonna fill up here very soon. So I've got my shelving makes like a U around the wall that it is designed around. And basically each rung, and there's like 13 rungs, is a different genre, and the U for my pop shelf is like an L right now. So this whole left side's completely filled out, the back side's completely filled out, and I'm starting to fill out the right side as well. And basically what that means is when it's full, I'm gonna have to figure out something else to do with my pop music. And like the easy answer would be, oh, you just knock it down another shelf and just have 2 shelves of pop, which is fine and doable. I'll probably break it up by decade at that point, because like I have a classic rock and a modern rock shelf, which that's even kind of a fishy thing to keep up with, because like I do my classic rock distinction the same as how they do like classic cars and stuff. And so if it's 25 years or older, it's considered a classic. And if it's 24 years or younger, then it's considered modern. And even though that's like a fine enough distinction for me, there's still like instances where I'm just like, is this really even necessary? And like a buddy of mine and I think we just had a conversation about the whole like classic rock versus rock thing. And like I believe he was basically saying that it's rock. Like rock is rock. It doesn't have to be like this distinction between classic rock and modern rock. Like, and you don't have that with any other genre. Like when you talk about rap, people don't. Some people will talk about like old school rap versus like modern rap, but like for the most part, rap is rap. You don't have to have a distinction between which decade you're talking about. And so it's like, is the rock so entirely different that it feels justified to call it its own thing? Or is it just the fact that it's old and a different generation of people are listening to it, and that's why we're calling it its own thing? And I feel like that's what we need to figure out. If the distinction is musical, then it's justified. If the distinction is generational, then it is not justified. And rock is its own kind of unique genre in the fact that it's evolved so much from other genres and from itself that it's in a situation I think different than most other genres, because all music genres have evolved over time, especially since their like conception. Like most people would say that rock was derivated from blues, and in fact it was blues music, and then it was rock and roll music, and then it was traditional rock music, and then traditional rock music hasn't gone through significant changes over time. They've been kind of like stuck on this idea of just getting like harder and harder and harder, and eventually you get hard enough that you just get into like the metal categories, and they're their own beast in the fact that like the people who started metal, Sabbath and Zeppelin, aren't even considered metal anymore. They're much too soft to be considered metal by the modern standards. But to the same end, like they were the people who created it. So it's kind of a crime to not call them metal when they literally fathered the genre. And so that's what it's like discussion for another day talking about those distinctions, but it is still an interesting and fruitful conversation to have, because like alternative was another good example that we bring up. Your boy's talking too much. I'm getting thirsty over here. Alternative is another example that we bring up in that alternative originally, at least by my understanding, and that's the other problem, is like I consider myself a bit of a music historian. Definitely a collector, definitely a nerd, definitely know a lot about music than your average Joe. But in that same vein, I wasn't alive when a lot of this stuff was happening. And so it's hard for me to speak to it and feel like I'm justified in my conversations because people, especially people from the time, can't even agree on what they were calling things. And so then when I try and step up and be like, nah, it's this, they're like, what do you know? You weren't even born. I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to play that game, then I'll just leave. But the way that I've always seen it, alternative music was basically what they called early, like, techno music. Like, before it was techno, before it was EDM, before it was electronic, before it was whatever you want to call it, it was alternative. And that's groups like Art of Noise, Kraftwerk, people like that would be, by the original sense, considered alternative. And then at some point in time, alternative became this weird, almost, it wasn't like a complete catch-all term. It was also used, like I know in the 2000s they used it to describe rock. And I've heard people describe The Offspring as an alternative band, and I feel like I would say that they're just punk, which is another genre that I don't really believe in, but if I had to put them in a subgenre category, it would be that, it wouldn't be alternative. But at any rate, at some point in time, the alternative ideology, if you will, turned into this whole concept of rock music. So like in the 2000s, if someone said they were listening to alternative music, they were probably just listening to rock music. And like some like radio stations and stuff would even call it like alt rock. And it's like, it's not its own genre anymore. It's just an alternative to listening to rock music. And that's weird as well. And like the science of genres and what genres exist and what genres should exist is a very subjective thing. I personally do not find value in them. It's funny, I have a very good buddy of mine, and he's not like a super music nerd. He's maybe like a step above your average music consumer, but he has like opposing opinions to me in every regard. And like I can't stand subgenres. I especially, like, I'm bothered by, like, some subgenres, but, like, the more specific and weird they get, the less I am willing to entertain their existence. And I feel like I maybe have 48 different genres in my database, and that's a maybe. And even some of those, like, I feel like you can just group into larger categories. And genres really only exist as like a way to help sell things. And it was actually a movie buff who I'm stealing that idea from. He is a scriptwriter that I follow, and he was basically saying that like genres, because he gets a lot of people who are trying to write movies, and he's like, yeah, people want to like write the movie or whatever, and the first thing they do is they ask me what genre I'm writing in, or what genre they should be writing in, or what genre they consider this story to be. And he's like, don't get hung up on genres. They're really only there to sell your material. You want to make sure that you have a strong story that makes sense before you worry about what genre it is. Like, write the story first, worry about the genre later, if at all. And that helped kind of gear my thought process towards like genres basically don't need to exist. We do not need to have them. And I do feel like on a larger, more global scale, like yes, we need to know what genres are. because there's a huge difference between your traditional rock song and your traditional rap song. Are there rap artists that use rock elements in their stuff? Absolutely. Are there rap artists that use rock elements in their stuff? Absolutely. But if we still know fundamentally what the difference between a rap song and a rock song is, that's a good thing. That's something that we need. But when you start getting into these weird in the woods genres with screamo, emo, gothic / rock, and it's like, really? It's like, just call it rock. Like, honestly, at that point, every musician is just their own subgenre of the genre that they play. And that's kind of the beauty of music, is like, everybody who performs it is going to be putting their own spin on it. Very few people are going to perform rock to the exact way in which it is textbook supposed to be performed. And so then that band's interpretation of the genre is what then becomes the subgenre. And so, like, the way that I see it, and the way that I would more view it, is you have the parent genres, and you know what these parent genres are. It's very plain and easy to distinguish them. And then from there, the subgenres are just the people who perform it. And like, when I pose this argument to my friend, who's maybe a step above the average music listener, he used old country versus new country as his argument. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the same kind of problem you run into with classic rock versus, I guess, what we're just calling rock, in that, like, the distinction cannot be the time in which it was made. The distinction has to be the content of the music. And so if you're saying that there's a huge difference between old country and new country, which there absolutely is, but it's not a sound related difference, it's a time related difference. And you could say the same thing about classic rock and modern rock. There's a huge difference in the sound. You can identify it when you hear it, but it's not a difference musically. It's a difference because times have changed, technologies have changed, and we're now making rock that sounds different than the rock that we made 20 years ago. Just like the movies we make look different than the movies that were made 20 years ago. Does that make them any less of an action film or any less of a comedy? No. It just makes it an old movie or an old comedy. All right. I think I've cleaned off my counters enough. I need to move my table back against the wall. And then I will probably fire up this new Young Gravy CD, because I usually have some sort of background music playing whenever I do my awesome laundry videos. So I will probably fire up the Young Gravy CD and put that in and let you guys bump to that while I play the laundry game, and hopefully can get some good philosophical conversations with y'all going for the laundry game, because I feel like the first laundry video I made, I had really good conversation with you guys then, and then after that it just really went downhill. And it wasn't like bad, but I feel like a lot of my content these days is lacking in direction, and I'm worried that is why no one pays attention to my content or cares to pay attention to my content or anything. And like, I can't blame them, but I also feel like I watch other creators who create similar stuff. They're just talking about what's on their mind. They're talking about what's real to them right there in that moment. And they're getting tons of views and people care about them. And it's like, what are these people doing? Excuse me. What are these people doing that I am not? Like, what am I missing about this concept? and how can I capture it? Because if they can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, then I won't feel bad about not doing it. So, and maybe some of it is literally just time. Time and effort. The time you put into doing the thing, the effort you put into doing the thing, and your ability to commit to it. And your ability to make something out of it because you've put time and effort into it. And like Sam Sulek, he's a fitness guy, and that's clearly like part of his channel, but I feel like he also just talks about stuff. And I feel like that's why people said that they enjoy his channel, because he just talks about stuff and they feel like they're just having a conversation with a friend. And I am trying my darndest to replicate that, but ain't nobody seeming to think that I'm very friendly, apparently, because ain't nobody talking to me. But I'm just me, being me, doing what I do, trying my darndest to succeed at this game called life. I've got way too many plastic containers in my plastic container shelf, and I'm thinking about throwing some of them away. The yogurt containers I was keeping, I kind of like them, but I don't know that I want to keep them necessarily. All right, this table now is going to get moved. I need to clean off the table too, because it's got a bunch of crap on it. Can you even see me? There's that. That's actually a pretty good angle. All right, this is my work laptop thing. Let's just put that down here. These Oreo cookies can go up. Where the Oreo cookies go. All right, and then this is all stuff from work. These are my Tupperware containers that I packed for lunch. These are my bananas. My bananas. I'll put them up here by the fruit thing, Ninja slicer. This is a bag of soy sauce. I don't really eat soy sauce, and I've got a bunch of soy sauce, and I never ever want to throw it away, but I know I'm not going to eat it either. It's like, why are you keeping this soy sauce if you don't want to throw it away, but you know you're not going to eat it? Like, this is silly. I don't like throwing stuff away. Though I just went through that whole project and threw all that stuff away, so maybe I'm just being silly. All right, gotta move this table now. Ugh. I used to put washcloths under the legs of this table so that it didn't scratch the tile. I don't think I'm scratching the tile when I do this, but I don't use washcloths anymore either. So we'll see what happens. Ugh. It opens up my kitchen so much more to have this table up against the wall, though. I want to extend my back patio, but part of me also wants to extend like the whole back wall. If I could just make this kitchen just a little bit deeper, more that away. It doesn't help that I've got an arcade machine in here, and that's making it more crowded than it needs to be. I probably should just move the arcade machine to a more responsible location than right smack dab in the middle of my kitchen. But it's my kitchen, and nothing screams my kitchen more than having a Michael Jackson arcade machine sitting right there. So I think I'm just going to leave it where it's at and deal with it. But yeah, that has been the second video. I'm going to call this my Young Gravy video, unexpectedly so, because I got this CD in the mail that I was not expecting. Ain't that marvelous? Take a look at her. It is a jewel case. A gosh darn jewel case, y'all. And that is what this world is all about.